finally make an Arab film and not box them as an
Exactly.
Egyptian film, a Syrian film, a Saudi
Yeah.
film either at a streamer or partly at a streamer, and then try to find the money through eventual partnerships, through product placement, through.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Unscripted. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, a successful film producer, and one of the key industry leaders bringing international and regional films to audiences across the Middle East and beyond. The CEO of Front Row Film Entertainment, distributor and producer behind some of the most successful titles to come out that spark conversations everywhere. Gianluca, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, all good, thank you.
Great. So, to start with, filmmaking is a very big field with so many different roles, and I know that you have tried different roles like writing. So, what made you feel that producing was the right path for you, or why did you choose it?
Oh, it wasn't for me. It's more of the business to start with. We were well positioned in the business since we start off as distributors. Therefore, given how the business is changing, the introduction of the streaming world, and the fact that we love to spark a conversation, we thought that there's not enough films out there or content out there that does that. And we thought to get into the arena and do that for ourselves. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's not an easy role at all. Like,
No, it's not an easy role,
it's
and especially being in the Middle East, a lot of politics, a lot of. So
yeah.
you gotta juggle your way in, and yeah.
Continuing on, so many people see the producer as the person who only like funds a film, or let's say the bank. So how it's not me, but like people in general. So how would you define what you actually do, like what a producer does in your from your own experience?
A producer is like a project manager. Yeah, it's practically that. Yeah, a lot of. Well, there are producers that just put money into film and do absolutely nothing. So
Yeah.
yes, you have that part, but that's not what we do. And a lot of the times, yes, we're perceived as that. But in fact, what we do is we also raise the money to to fund a film. But at the same time, sort of again, as I said, act like a project manager. So you have to put the puzzle together. That's what a producer really does. And the money that we find out there is mainly through pre-sales. So you go after streamers, you try to set up a film either at a streamer or partly at a streamer, and then try to find the money through eventual partnerships, through product placement, there's many ways of doing that. Again, the Middle East is not like the West, where it's a fully developed industry.
Exactly.
Over here, it's very much still
We
in the
lack a lot
process
of
of.
resources.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. So it's still in the process of developing. It's getting there slowly, but yeah, no, there are different ways of producing, and no, we're not a bank for sure. That's
Exactly.
not that.
So, like, we are there in all
Yeah,
phases of the production, not
exactly.
only the bank.
No, absolutely.
So, when you decide to invest or back in a film, what are the key factors that you look at? Because, like, we know it's very easy for a project or a film either to fail or to succeed.
Yeah.
So, what matters most to you? Like, is it the story, the team, or the market potential, or something else?
Well, first of all, it starts with the story, always, and who's behind the development. We get involved a lot in the development process, so it's not that we leave, we leave it be. We like to really encourage writers, and us knowing the market. I mean, we've been distributing films for 22, almost 23 years now, so we kind of know what's missing. We kind of know, what's offensive, what's not. You have to balance it out based on,
Yeah,
on the culture
exactly.
and the sensitivities locally, while still trying to push the boundaries. I think it's essential that we do that. Otherwise, it always falls flat. So yeah, no, it really depends on the story, and then together with the writers, kind of build this project to a point where it just makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense for the whole Middle East. It really depends. It's not just then about the story, but it's also about how you package the actual
Exactly.
feature.
Because
yeah.
even if the story was perfect,
Yeah,
it might also
exactly.
fail
It's
or no one
100%.
watches it. So
Yeah, and it's
so
one
hard.
of the failures and
Yeah,
the successes,
exactly.
believe me. Yeah.
So you founded the Front Row Film Entertainment
Yes.
like in Dubai over 20 years ago maybe.
Correct.
And you have played a major role in starting and growing the cinema industry here. So in your opinion, how does the industry changed from like 20 years from you first began, and how did those changes shape the way you choose or produce today?
Um, I mean, it was hard when we first got in because it was quite territorial. So you have to fight also that. So it's not just about your skill. It's also about competition and the politics around this competition. So we were lucky enough to strike strategic alliances. In the region and people that actually saw it our same way. In terms of a vision, and slowly built on that. Now, on the distribution side, it was very hard. But then when it came to the production side, it's still very hard. But as I said before, we were well positioned to do that. We had the contacts. We were known to distribute specific kind of films, and therefore, for the stuff that we wanted to do, it was okay. Easy is not the right word, but easier than anyone that's starting from scratch. Let me put it that way.
When you began, like it was a little less like competition from today.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
today it's much a lot maybe.
It's a different kind of competition, but
The industry changed. And
yeah, the
everything.
industry changed, but the thing is that you only had 2-3 players. That's it. When it came just on the production side, you have obviously the Hollywood of the Middle East, which is Egypt, and the whole Middle East was serviced for that, or at that. But now you have other territories that opened up, which is like Saudi Arabia, you have Kuwait,
Yeah.
you have Qatar, so you have like quite a few territories. You have the Levant, so Syria, Lebanon, Jordan. Yeah, so these are all territories and audiences that are waiting to get served. And on one side you have Egypt, that's for as great as it or the history that they have, which is over 100 years. Now it's really turned into a sellout kind of territory, where it's like it's just very much cast driven. The scripts aren't really worked on,
Yeah.
and therefore people are ready for innovation, and like us, and I'd love to meet more people like us that are willing to change that, and kind of finally make an Arab film and not box them as
Exactly.
an Egyptian film, a Syrian film, a Saudi film. Yeah, that stuff bores us.
That leading to our next question. Production is very unpredictable, like a lot. Things can go wrong suddenly at the last moment.
Yes.
So, what's been one of your biggest challenges on set, maybe, and how did you overcome it? Or how it shaped the way you worked after that?
No, I mean, again, like when it comes to productions, let's be frank, we've done 4 films so far. So it's not that we have like, a massive library of films that we've worked on. And again, back to the question of like, a producer, you never stop learning. So it's not like what you study, and that applies on
in
the
the
field.
field.
It never does. It's kind of, but you learn along the way. And I'm still learning what a real producer does. It's not a defined a job. So you start off with a lot of egos. That's the first thing. Whether it's from the director, whether it's from the
Yeah.
cast, whether it's from the
Really.
team. And I think the first thing that I really learned was how to put off fires. Because like it's especially on specific films, when you have a team of 100 divided into different departments, believe me, you will have fires. And on every single department, you want to shut that fire down before it just it matters on and yeah, before it affects the whole set. I think that was that was the first thing that got to me. I thought it would be a lot simpler, but no, it's
Like
not.
even from one set to another, you are
Oh my God!
each
Yeah,
time you
yeah.
are working with different crew
Yes,
and
yeah,
different
exactly.
actors. So
Yeah, you think
it
that
happens every time. I
you
guess.
think while working with the teams, you think that everybody has the same exact vision. No.
Yeah. So one of the strong projects you worked on is Perfect Strangers in
Our
2022.
first, yeah,
Yeah, which made a big noise when it was
Yes, it
released, especially in the Middle East.
correct.
So, what made you believe in that film specifically, and what do you think that was the most rewarding part of it? Is it the conversations it made, or
Yeah,
was
I mean,
the
again, like
market?
I'm partly Italian, therefore I saw the film in cinemas. I saw the reaction that it had, where all the couples were fighting. So I think that was the first thing that I wanted to, that kind of drove me to that project. And we were actually the second territory to acquire the film after France, because it was originally an Italian production. And it's such a universal theme, or everybody lies. Therefore, you know, to why be a hypocrite, And I was like, let's try to bring it over here. And the film is very much borderline, so it's all in the dialogue, really.
Yeah.
So we bet on that, and then along the way, kind of understood that, oops, this could be, a bit of a trouble, but
Because it's in a different region, maybe. So
yeah, but that
that's
same
why.
film was released in the festivals across the Middle East. It won
I
prizes.
personally watched it.
You
so
did, right? Yeah.
yeah.
So it won prizes in the Middle East, but unfortunately in the Middle East we have double standards where,
Exactly.
if it's in Italian it's fine, but if it's the same film as in Arabic, then it's not fine.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. I think that's why we are stuck.
yeah, but I
Yeah,
think it's gonna change.
hopefully.
So the rewarding part of it was, yes, the conversation that it sparked. We touched on a lot of taboos which nobody would touch in the past, and it's still borderline. So it's not that you've done something that is changing the world. You're not, but I
Yeah.
think it's subjects that people need to talk about. And at the beginning, yes, there was a lot of controversy around the film, but then equally, there were people defending, the film, the artists,
Yeah.
the subject matter, and I think that was the most rewarding
Because
part.
they are also known actors.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
they have a
But
huge career.
100%. But the fact that you had a community, even the union of actors, that were defending the film and the talent, I think that was quite rewarding. But what was not rewarding was that afterwards you were seen as a troublemaker, and you thought that it would open doors, but at the beginning it didn't, and then slowly you'd have to start again from zero, which then afterwards we did a film which was completely different, but still at the beginning people were fearing, it's like, there's another controversy around, and we're like, no, there's not. Yeah.
So we actually have one question from our listeners.
Okay.
So they are asking, like, because our target audience are still like filmmakers, young creatives,
Yeah.
or film students. So most of them have like great ideas, but they don't have budget or connections at all. And we know like production is mostly about your connections. So from your perspective, how they can like bring a strong story to life and catch a producer's attention.
Well, it really depends on the producers that you're going to. There are different producers that just want to make a commercial or mainstream film, and it's just that. And then there are other producers that kind of look at the story, and then if it catches their eye, together sort of develop it, and as I said earlier, try to package it the right way before even getting into production. So it's not a rule. There's not one rule. It really depends who you go to and who you target.
But most of them want to trust like students maybe.
Well,
Like,
well,
because
you gotta
they
start
care
somewhere.
about
You gotta
it's
start
hard to
somewhere.
start, but it's hard, I
Of
think,
course it's
to
hard. No, of course it's
catch
hard. We
your attention,
see
maybe.
that. No, absolutely. And the fact that, unfortunately, the fact that you're in the UAE, you're kind of penalized um, because you can't really target an audience. There's so
So
many
hard.
communities, versus a country like Syria or a country like Lebanon, or, you have a built-in audience,
On the cultural authenticity.
yeah,
of
exactly.
it.
Versus over here, if you go to a streamer, they'll tell you, but who am I targeting? Is
Yeah.
it the Arabs? But what kind of Arabs? Is it the Indians? It's like, it's not that. So that's yeah, the UAE is kind of penalized in that sense. But again, that doesn't stop you from kind of co-producing and trying to find a film that would
Yeah.
resonate, whether or co-produce with Egypt or with Saudi Arabia or with any other country. It has to be kind of universal for the Middle East. And
Exactly.
once again, there's like in the Middle East, the script comes at the very end, which is sad.
And
You know, it's
it keeps changing all the time.
yeah, but it's like they don't give a lot of importance to scripts, which is quite sad. You know, we really think, at least us and my company, you know, we believe that the script is the base of everything, um, and then it's up to people like us to sort of build a script that would make sense to commercialize in the Middle East, again through packaging,
Yeah.
and collaboration, obviously, with the writers. So no, it's not because you're a student you're penalized. You know, that's not that. It's really about the story. It's about the script, and then afterwards, whatever comes.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
development
but yeah.
part. So, as a producer, you already mentioned that you are responsible for like many different parts throughout the film. So it's not only in the production phase itself, but how important is planning the distribution and the marketing and the future of the film from the very beginning? Do you start early or do you start like working for the distribution in the post-production phase?
Right. No. Well, okay. We start as distributors. Therefore, our mindset is that. You know, it's like if we bet on a film, um, you know that we're gonna have to distribute it, right? So it's from the start in our head.
Yeah, it's very important
You know,
phase.
yeah, no, of course. Like, it's
And
like you
hard.
but even the way we finance films, if you don't have a pre-existing deal, for example, with you know, through the film where you're covered most of the budget or half of it at least, we won't get into production. It's risky. You know, we've seen so many people go bankrupt because of like, oh, I have a great idea, we're investing all our money in it, and let's see what
Exactly.
happens. Yeah, we don't work that like that. It's just um, it's penalizing for us and for our partners, you know. So yeah, with us, it's like we start off with the idea of how we're going to set it up, and through the distribution, you know, kind of raise that money. So you know that once your film is done, you know you're going to get it distributed anyway. The marketing of the film comes once it's in post production. You know, you start working on the trailers, you start working on the initial posters. Yeah, so it's really along the way. But at the beginning, you know, once you have a fully developed script, which in our case takes more than a year and a half, you know, then you know, obviously you just want the whole concentration on set. So that's it. Let's just concentrate on shooting. And then afterwards, you know, once in post, then you start thinking of the marketing of the film, and even the way you're going to be distributing the title. You know, it could be like in the case of Ashab wal Az or Perfect Strangers. It was the first Netflix original here in the region. You know, so that was one way. At the beginning, yes, we wanted to release it theatrically. Then COVID happened. We didn't know what was happening, and then, you know, in that case, Netflix came knocking on our door. Um, that triggered a first look deal, so you had sort of a priority when it came to Netflix, and we produced Sandcastle, which was the second, you know, original. You know, but then there are other films that we're working on now that are not necessarily originals. You know, we're aiming for theatrical releases. You know, so yeah.
So as a producer, like you handle all the project during all phases.
Yeah,
Like
you
you
have
are
to.
the
Yeah, you have to.
story.
Again, like we have the advantage of having a distribution company. Again, it's in our DNA. That's how we think. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So finally, what keeps you motivated after decades in this industry? And what advice would you give to someone who is just starting and worried whether they will make it or not?
Um, Try to get a stable job. That's one thing, because you can't survive just on producing. You got to build that. That's the first thing. And again, we are beyond lucky to have a distribution company.
Yeah,
So
it's so hard
you
to
know,
prove
that's your, yeah.
yourself
You
in
know,
this industry.
exactly. So, you know, get a stable job, and then, you know, have a on the side. You know, you've got to be determined. You know, and then one day it could be just your thing. But at the same time, be different. You know, don't follow the mass. Don't copy. Don't, you know. Unfortunately, that's what's wrong with the industry over here. They all want to make the same thing. They all want to target the same exact audience. That way, you will never ever stand
Or
out.
if a film succeed, they will continue doing the
A
other
hundred
films
percent.
the
Yeah,
same way,
100%.
the same
You know,
story, the same
exactly.
audience.
You know, so yeah, with different, but yeah, essentially the same. Yeah, I think it's essential to be creative and different. You know, that's where you're going to stand out. And if you just follow the mass, you are never going to stand out. ever. And that's when you have to rely on the wasta and which I don't recommend because it always comes down with the price.
But it's there.
It doesn't necessarily have to be there, honestly.
Yeah. So, Gianluca, thank you so much for
You're
joining
welcome.
us today. We have learned a lot from you, me
Oh.
personally as a developing producer. And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in Unscripted. We still have more exciting episodes to come up along the way, so stay with us and see you in the next one.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It was a
you.
pleasure. Thanks.